In this video, you'll see how to write and graph an inequality. So inequalities use these symbols, the greater than sign, the less than sign, the less than or equal to sign, or the greater than or equal to sign. And when we are graphing an inequality, we want to always mark the boundary, and we're going to use an open or filled in circle for that. So this first inequality, n is less than 1. First, I'm going to mark 1 on my number line. And then I see it's a less than sign. Because it's a less than sign, I use the open circle. So an open circle at 1. Then I ask myself, n is less than 1. What numbers are less than 1? All the numbers to the left of 1 on the number line, like 0 and -1 and -10. So what this inequality is saying is this graph represents all the possible values that n could be. It could be -1,000,000, but it could also be 0.99999, and that's why we use the open circle there to show it can get all the way to 1, but it can't equal 1. This next example, f is greater than -3. Again, I want to mark -3 on the number line. I'm going to use an open circle because it's the greater than sign. And now I ask myself, what numbers are greater than -3? Well, -2, 0, 5, all those numbers there. And now we want to go the other way for these next two problems. I see the boundary here is at 1, so I always start with a variable. If I'm not told what variable it is, I could choose any one I want. So I'll use n. I know it's going to be 1 as the boundary. And what's the relationship between this blue line here and 1? Well, all those numbers are greater than 1. And remember, that blue line represents the values for x, and it could be 1 because it's got the filled in circle, so I put the line under it. So it's the greater than or equal to sign. You could also have written it like this, though. You could write 1 is less than or equal to n. Those are the same thing. How about this next example? -2 is my boundary. I'm going to use a variable. I'll choose m. What's the relationship between this blue line and -2? Well, all these numbers are less than -2. It's an open circle, so it's just the less than sign. There are also these compound inequalities. So a compound inequality can be joined by the word and it's the overlap of the two inequalities. So I've got this graph, y is greater than or equal to -3, and y is less than 9. Now, typically, we'll see it this way, where you'd read this as -3 is less than or equal to y, which is less than 9. But similar to what I did before, I'm going to mark my boundaries, -3 and 9. I'm going to look at those symbols. Open or close circle here at -3. Well, should be closed or filled in. Open or close circle at 9. It's the less than sign, so it should be open. Now, where is y? Well, y is greater than or equal to -3, but it's less than 9, so it's everything in between those two numbers. And then we have inequalities joined by or. M is less than -3 or m is greater than 0. Again, I see my two boundaries, -3 and 0, and I'm always going to put it the correct way in the number line, where the smaller number is to the left. M is less than -3. That means an open circle at -3, and all the numbers to the left of -3 are less than it. M is greater than 0. Again, open circle on 0. All the numbers to the right of 0 are greater than it. For Get More Math, I want to use what I know about inequalities and write and graph them. So some things that are important. First off, this darker black line here always represents 0. So the boundary here is at -1. Okay, it says write the inequality for this graph. Use x as your variable. So I'm going to use x as my variable. And what's the relationship between that pink line and -1? Well, I can see that all the numbers on the pink line are greater than -1, and because it's an open circle, it's not greater than or equal to. However, if I wanted to write greater than or equal to, I could click on this button and write greater than or equal to by clicking here on that button. Another type problem you'll have is you're going to have to graph it. So x is greater than or equal to -1. Well, first off, I want to decide, do I want the open circle going to the right here, or do I want the filled in circle? I do want the filled in circle. Remember, this dark line is 0, so -1 is right here. So first I place it on the boundary, and again, I'm going to choose if it's open or closed. And then I want to decide which direction do I want the arrow to move. So I'm going to go to the left of the dot or to the right. Since x is greater than -1, that's numbers like this, 3 or 4. So the line's going to go that way. Finally, I want to see how to graph these compound ones. So it says my friend Mimstoon has less than 15 alibers and more than 11. Well, first off, I see it's a compound one, so I need to add another tick mark here so I can label them both. So I'm going to label them both, starting with the smallest, going to the biggest. And now I want to think about, what does this inequality look like? Well, we got less than 15, and it can't be 15, so it'll be an open circle on 15. More than 11, which means it can't be 11, so there's going to be an open circle on 11. Here's the one with the 2 open circles. And now I'm going to just click on both of those both of those boundaries there. Now I've got to write an inequality that shows the possible amount, and I got to use x as my variable. Well, look at this. It's 11 and 15 are my two boundaries. 11 is less than x, and x is less than 15. That would be the inequality I write. And now I have to write an impossible value. Well, x can't be 10, so I'm going to write 10. But there's so many choices there you could choose. Oh, and I got to make sure you check all 3 of them. And that's how we'll work with the inequalities. Good luck.